At least one person has died after a passenger jet hit severe turbulence flying from London to Singapore. Dozens of others were injured. Flight data suggests that the plane, a Boeing 777, dropped some 6,000 feet in just 5 minutes. Witnesses say that those not wearing seatbelts were launched to the ceiling. The jet was forced to make an emergency landing in Bangkok.
Injured passengers are carried off the Singapore Airlines flight by medical staff in Bangkok airport, where they receive immediate treatment. And some are taken to hospital. Passengers have spoken out about the horror when the plane suddenly plunged.
It was a long way and so sudden, there was no warning at all. And I ended up hitting my head on the ceiling, my wife did. Some poor people who were walking around ended up doing somersaults. It was absolutely terrible.
This animated graphic shows the plane travelling on its intended flight path from London to Singapore, before it hit a bout of severe turbulence and dropped more than 1,800 metres, around 6,000 feet, from its cruising altitude. It was then rerouted to land at Bangkok's main airport, where authorities are still piecing together what exactly happened on board.
Preliminary investigations indicate that the deceased suffered from a heart condition. He was a 73-year-old British national. However, they are still in the next stage of the autopsy process.
As the investigation continues, several of the passengers who felt well enough to continue their journey boarded another plane bound for Singapore.
Julian Bray is an aviation expert from Cambridge in the UK. I spoke with him earlier.
Yes, first of all, our condolences to the family and to all those who've been injured. This is a very unusual occurrence because the Boeing 777 is a state-of-the-art plane. It's built of carbon fiber, and usually turbulence only affects the mainframe of the plane and not all the other perils that we've seen today. But it does underline the fact that if you do fly on aircraft today, because of the changing climate, weather conditions and everything else, you should actually keep your seatbelt on. Just lightly around your lap, but just make sure it is actually buckled so you can't be thrown out of your chair and hit the ceiling, which apparently happened to quite a number of people. And they dislodged the ceiling panels and some of the infrastructure came down, exposing pipes and everything else. So there is a message there. And another message should be that in future it should be hand baggage only in cabins, and all cases have to go into the hold because that is the place for them.
Yeah, because you know, Mr. Bray, today there are more people than ever flying, and people are trying to fly by carrying on as much luggage as possible. Do you think that this incident and others, hopefully that we don't have that are like it, but this incident is going to force airlines to change their policy about carry-ons?
I think it's going to have to because, as you say, more people are flying, so there's more luggage in cases. I know the cases fit under your seat, but the point is they are a movable object. They're not tied down, and so the best place for them is in the hold. And people will say, yes, but we want to get off quickly. But if there is a real emergency and then you have chutes to slide down, then people waiting to get their cases will delay the real rescue procedure when these things do happen. So we're lucky that the plane managed to make an emergency landing and everybody else got off apart from the injured, and the ambulances were waiting.
Do we know, Mr. Bray, what the pilots, what they were encountering when this happened? I mean, they were flying a Boeing 777, and we know the route that they were following. But can you maybe give us a bird's eye view, if you will, of what maybe the pilots would have encountered and had to do?
Well, yes, and of course they have all the latest navigational aids and also radar, which is very important because on modern infrared Doppler radar, you can actually pick up traces of turbulence. So you are forewarned in some cases. But apparently, and of course there's going to be a massive investigation now to find out what did happen, they wouldn't always know that the turbulence was there. So they might have seen clear air as a clear air incident, in other words, nothing showing, and they went straight into it. Normally, aircraft fly over clouds and around storms and away from bad weather areas. But unfortunately, it does happen. You do get these sudden pockets. And you have to admit there's been some very strange weather events around the world lately. For example, Dubai, flooding, for heaven's sake. Nobody's ever seen that before. And so I think we have to take account of changing climate conditions, changing weather patterns, and we had to be ready for it. But I think we can help ourselves if we keep those seatbelt buckles buckled up when we fly.
Well, earlier, we spoke to journalist Jacob Goldberg in Bangkok, and he gave us the latest from the scene.
The press conference was just held with a representative from the airport. There were previous reports in local media of a second fatality. It's possible that those were made in error. Singapore Airlines has confirmed that there was one fatality of a 70-year-old British national, and that fatality is believed to be related to a heart condition. It's also been reported that there are 7 passengers in critical condition and 18 in total who have been hospitalized. Based on footage shared by passengers on social media, the plane experienced a pretty severe drop in altitude. It was reported later that it was probably 1.8 kilometers drop in about 4 minutes, and the footage shows drinks and food flying everywhere, and there have also been some images shared of damage to the overhead compartments, the ceiling of the plane when passengers were launched into the air by the turbulence.